Previously on Rimworld. So I have decided in my infinite wisdom that we shall call our main settlement the Condiment Crew, which means the only logical place for us to live is, quite honestly, the fridge. Salt is alcoholic, and it took me a little while, right? I kept seeing this major break risk. Now, if any of you want to know what peak efficiency looks like, Hot Sauce demonstrates it here with a shooting level of 6. You can see him expertly miss this turkey every damn time. This duck hatched and I didn't even realize it existed, and I named it Pickle. And Pickle is now Salt's emotional support duck. Okay guys, and welcome back. Thank you so much for joining me for the second episode of Rimworld Without Guns. So in the last episode we had a lot going on, and you know, we achieved quite a bit, I like to think, but in this episode we're going to be looking through, kind of setting ourselves up ready for kind of like the end game. I reckon a couple more episodes on this one, then I have some really interesting kind of bits and pieces that I kind of want to run through, primarily based in Rimworld at the moment, but I may branch out to other games. It's not the only game I play, but let's get into. We've got wonderful Salt and Hot Sauce here, so I was kind of going through, making sure, checking all their health, things like that. Salt is obviously battling his alcohol addiction at the moment ever since we got rid of it, so it's something that I wanted to make sure that I was keeping an eye on throughout the playthrough. I decided to check in on the little pile that we've got there. So Salt and Pepper, you know, get married, nice, that's great. Always going to be good because it will give us that boost to sort of like their you know, the colonist morale when they have like a ceremony like this, so I felt it would be pretty good. A little something to consider. I decided to actually check in and have a little look. This nest isn't really doing anything, it's not much of a threat to me at the moment, so something we'll potentially look at later, but again, it wasn't something that I was particularly too worried about. I felt that, you know, this is just something we'll eventually get round to. So yeah, this is a pretty great bit as we're playing through. I decided to get the guys out hunting. I found it pretty amusing watching Soy expertly. I thought we'd reached peak efficiency in the last episode, but Soy literally struggled to hunt a tortoise here. It gets to a point where this tortoise falls asleep, and still he manages to not hit. I had to check. I was like, nope. He literally threw a javelin at this tortoise and still failed to hit it, which was pretty great. So we were quite lucky. I've obviously got the train all mod. So I started training Pickle in the art of combat, rescue and hauling, so that it could help out around the colony. And even had it follow Salt when it was drafted so that it could be sent into combat. You know, we started collecting lots of different resources, lots of things that we were going to need, and we had a few good opportunities to start making the place a home, really, building lots of beautiful flooring and putting everything that we needed together. You know, we started growing cotton, had plenty of rice, and you know, things were good. We had a few kind of wild animals jump in and start attacking us from time to time, so you will see there are like injured colonists here or injured colonists there. None of it was particularly too severe at this point, so we were in a pretty good spot to push back and start reclaiming things, you know, as we needed. You know, we managed to get Pickle his attack stat. He was fully trained in this, ready to go, ready to defend the colony's honour, which was pretty good. Now this was really interesting, so we had a deserter quest, so a loyalty squad, so decided to come in. This would be our first push against people with guns, and we're going to have Bear, which is later going to become Sriracha, but you know, Bear is going to be a huge part of the colony, and a really important player as we move forward, so it was really exciting. But you know, the guys were doing pretty good. You know, we had hot sauce, soy, pepper, salt, ketchup, and then obviously we also had the wonderful Pickle, who we absolutely love. But you know, I felt that we were ready. We were ready to fight this guy. You know, he had a bear had a gun, which is not allowed. So before he could use anything, obviously I got him to drop it. But thankfully, he was pretty good in melee. So I decided to give him some melee weapons. Although, you know, I'll get them to switch between melee and shooting fairly frequently. I didn't want to kind of have too much in the way there, and you know, the raid came with a poor HMG, so I was a little bit concerned. You know, we do have more people, but a gun makes a big difference in Rimworld, right? My hope was it was going to get taken out, but alas it didn't. But I had a great kind of plan. We had a couple of melee guys, we had a few range, so while the range kept the guy with the gun busy, I had Ketchup and Bear at the time. We'll rename him later. I had Ketchup and Bear move around, ready to take out this guy. So you know, and I thought I did a great job. You know, these guys got involved, they knocked him out. Salt took a gunshot to the leg. We had a little bit of damage on, I think, Bear at the time, but he was also best equipped because he came with some pretty good armor at the time. But then this bugger snuck off. He snuck off. I didn't finish him off in time. So he snuck off in the rainstorm and made it away. So we didn't get his gear, which was a shame, really. But you know, we started building up. You know, we built a proper infirmary with beds. Everyone had kind of their own bed, and everyone was getting comfortable. We got Bear to start hollowing out his own space because he had no issues with the dark. So I thought, you know, I'll give him a little mountainside cave, and my plan was to slowly build into the mountainside. I felt it would be easier to defend as we moved through the game, especially because I started realizing we were taking a lot of damage when it came to fighting kind of just even mad animal events, as well as you know, like anyone that was showing up with kind of like anything ranged. So not just kind of like guns, but also if they had any kind of bow or anything like that, it became a bit of a problem. Now, because I'm using kind of mods, we started jerky production as well, which I felt was going to be really important. You can use jerky in cooking for like simple meals and stuff, but also it doesn't go off. So I felt it'd be a really good way to start processing meat from hunting, and later on when I started thinking about things like domestication, I thought that'd be quite exciting. You know, we started moving things out, making things look pretty. It was all going very well, and you know, we had a few other things kind of pop up, and we had. So this one ended up being pretty good for the run. We had the opportunity to take on a prisoner, so I converted kind of part of the med bay. It was a really good opportunity to get some of those advanced components, which, you know, when we're kind of thinking about things later on, especially more advanced melee weapons, which we are allowed to use in this run, I felt it would be really funny to kind of use this opportunity, because it wasn't exactly a challenging quest, you know, like take one prisoner, place them in a bed, and kind of wait it out. You know, not a particular challenge. I do find, depending on like your tech levels and stuff like that, the difficulty in Rimworld goes up and down. You know, so it wasn't anything too taxing. So I kind of made this tiny little area that would eventually become the prisoner area next to the bay, because I thought I could always expand this out later on if I wanted to, into the cliffside. So it's something that we could then do. And then we had the opportunity to have Humps join us. Humps is a strange one because I've got the expanded mod pack, so I've not come across this type of character before, but they basically are like half plant. I don't know if anyone else has kind of come across this before, but for me it was completely brand new, and it was kind of a challenge. Because I eventually I've not really done much with things like waste packs and stuff in the game, so this was an opportunity to get things that would take waste. Like, she eats waste packs, but then yeah, you'll see as we kind of get through the game. So we had this grenadier come through. Thankfully, they just had some tox grenades, which, you know, they're not too difficult to deal with, but but they had a good skill in plants, did Humps. So to me, they will later become spinach. But but Humps, had a really good kind of background in plants, so would become kind of instrumental to setting up more of the growing beds as we move forward. So the run was going fairly well at the moment. Nothing was kind of going too much awry. We were taking care of business. You got these guys coming in trying to raid us. Detox grenades, not a problem. I kind of got into this habit with the raiders of having sort of like my range. They were doing okay, but they weren't really homing in very well. We had our battle duck at the ready, just in case pickles was needed. But primarily, not much kind of happened with the shooting. It was sometimes they'd hit, but most of the time they'd miss. So I actually started reinvesting more of the kind of melee area. So that's something I'm probably gonna keep expanding on. So we have officially now sriracha and spinach. So pretty good. And as I said, we had a few raids. We actually got some weapons left to us. So Soy is using a flame bow, which you'll see the extent of his pyromania later on. It was quite amusing, to see. Again, it's something I'd not really come across much, but it does help, I suppose. We'll see in later episodes if the flame bows are worth it. At the moment, they seem to cause a lot of problems. I even started growing our own medical supplies to make sure that we were keeping on top of that simple kind of like health aspect. And as you can see by the kind of like fridge area I've kind of created, it's not cool enough to be a fridge at the moment till we get electricity, but you can kind of see how it works. So this again, it's Soy versus the turtles, and this just it just makes me chuckle every time I watch this, because it's just like, yes, when you're hunting turtles, one of the best things to do is cause a small forest fire. That's great. And I've cut this, so this went on for so long, it's still going. You can see it's dusk now. The flames have spread, and I thought this was it, but no, because I was accepting a quest. I was looking through stuff later about the waste clearance, and I'll get into that in a moment, but you can see it's still going. If it hadn't rained I really don't think this fire would have just spread down, and it would have been a big problem for us. So we really lucked out with the rain, but it was pretty amusing. So the reason I accepted the waste contract, normally I wouldn't. I've heard a lot, or I've read a lot on like the Reddit about how difficult it can be to get rid of pollution, but spinach, as you can see on their kind of pack now, they need to photosynthesize, but they also need waste packs. So I was like, okay, this is not a problem. A few hundred waste packs will feed them. What I didn't realize is you need to freeze those waste packs. That is slightly more of a problem, because otherwise they degrade, especially in the rain, and the pollution starts to spread. But again, it wasn't sort of like the end of the world. So we started expanding out. You can see here there were a few small dramas, things like blight of the crops. We managed to save most of them. We started hollowing out parts of the base that we wanted inside the mountain, and we dealt with some pretty significant fires that hit our waste packs, which were already polluting like everything. And spinach wasn't really consuming them as fast as I thought that they might. And then Sriracha did something beautiful, and went toe to toe with a bear that was hunting him. He just kind of went, you know what, no. With a poor quality weapon, he went toe to toe with a bear. He had to get a bit of help at the end by, ketchup, pepper and hot sauce, but actually, he did really well. But he had to really fight this for a while. He was out of commission for a little while. We did get the bear, but Ketchup and Sriracha both were literally hours away from death if Pepper hadn't stepped in, because Ketchup is actually our medic. So it was kind of really important that I started branching out and having other people do some of the medicine, because I didn't want to be in a situation where if we lost ketchup we'd be struggling. So and then this is when like infections started to kind of come in, and you can see that like ketchup had to step in essentially to help clear this up because it was a problem. We had a minor infection, and then the next thing I know, we had a second minor infection in his left foot. The important message here, kids at home, is don't fight bears with a club. It's not great. So you can see here as well, while they were recovering, there was a lot of issues with sort of like the pollution spreading, but again, it's just like this infection was just going crazy. And I watched it quite closely, and our tend was just above the actual kind of like infection itself, so it was a pretty big one in that regard. As they were recovering, we got attacked by chickens. It was an interesting fight with soy involved, because yet again it just involved loads of fire, and once again we were saved by like a rainstorm, because it's like these 4 chickens came in, and like Pickles showed his power. He killed one chicken and then started going toe to toe with the second chicken. It was absolutely beautiful. It was it gave me an idea for a future run, but it was really kind of good to see that we could actually have, the training was paying off. We had a battle kind of royale chicken going on, and we did it. We then survived the infection, which was great. I was a little bit worried for a while that we were going to lose Sriracha, and I really didn't want to lose him. I'll be brutally honest. Like, he was a really nice character to have. Couldn't do medical, but had pretty good intellect and good melee, good shooting skill. Wasn't afraid of the dark and things as well. And there were a few more raids that sort of like came in and started kind of pushing the boat out a little bit. But this was the last big one of this episode. This is where I realised that the raids were going to start stepping up, and I needed to start thinking about how I did it. But we finally got Pickles into battle, and very quickly I realised that battle ducks shouldn't be a thing. Rest in peace, Pickles. You will not be forgotten, is all I will say. He fought his best. Soy made a mess of the place, and that was pretty much it. But it was interesting. I'll give it that. But I think for me, this is a really good idea. It kind of gave me an idea of how we're gonna kind of progress for the next episode. Some of the things we're probably gonna face as problems. But it was still really, really interesting to kind of see how it worked. So finally we sent off Wiggins, and it was nice and quiet, the quiet before the storm. I have already kind of filmed the next episode, so some good stuff coming. It's going to get really interesting, but we are now established. We have a comfortable little base, and that's that. So I will say thank you all for tuning in and listening, and I am genuinely really excited to see you in the next one. So thank you.